Product provided by Nintendo specifically for Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition. Hello everybody, it's your boy Jmulls, and today we have to talk about what in my opinion are the two biggest snubs at the Game Awards this year. Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition and also Trails in the Sky First Chapter. And like clockwork, there's a lot of controversy surrounding the nominees at the Game Awards. So let's talk about the nature of award shows in general, why people get so emotionally invested in this season, and why I think people are really sleeping on Trails and Xenoblade. Let's get into this. We got a GoPro going in Paris right now. Let's begin by talking about why people get so attached and invested in the award show, specifically the Game Awards itself. It is the biggest player on the block. It's the one that gets the most publicity. It's the one that gets the most eyes on it. And people become attached to the things they like. That's just human nature. We play these games, we care about these games and these worlds and these characters and the moments and the experiences and the memories we have in these games, and we want to share that with the rest of the world. It's part of the reason I have this channel to begin with. So when people care so much about the games they love, and award season comes around and those games just don't get that much recognition, for some people it can feel like a kick in the penis, where it's basically the industry at large saying the game you love just isn't good enough compared to all these other games that you maybe don't care enough about. Sometimes it can just come off as pretentious or a popularity contest. And at the end of it all, do we really need an award show just to award the game that is the most popular? Wouldn't just looking at concurrent players or sales numbers give you that answer anyways? So like, what's the point in it? And then some other people use it for agendas. Hey, JRPGs just aren't that good, and that's why they don't get all these awards and recognition at the end of each year. If you're like me and you play quite a few JRPGs, you'll know that's just not particularly true. There's a lot of great games that come out all the time in that genre and in other genres. So I think that's a lot of the reasons why people get so emotionally invested and also just upset when it comes to what games get nominated for various awards. Do I agree with all the nominees at the Game Awards? Absolutely not. I have no idea why Avowed is even sniffing Best RPG. And like we'll get into later in this video, my two favorite games of this year weren't even nominated for like any awards. And does that upset me? Not particularly. I kind of expected it. I just think a lot of people are missing out on great experiences. I also think for this year in particular, a lot of the, I don't know if I would call it anger per se, the strong sentiment towards this year's Game Awards is centered around Expedition 33. It is absolutely one of the biggest games of this year, and I love the game a lot, but I feel as if discussion surrounding this game has really missed the mark. Some people act as if Expedition 33 is reviving a dead genre of JRPG, or as if the game is actively trying to innovate on the formula and modernize it in such a way. If you know anything about Expedition 33, you'll know that's not the case at all. Expedition 33 is so obviously a love letter to the rest of the genre, past and present. It doesn't try to innovate, it doesn't try to reinvent the wheel, it just wants to show how beautiful that wheel is. And it does its best to incorporate a bunch of little elements or scattered features from a bunch of other JRPG series. And it also tries its best to feel like an old school Final Fantasy game that was released in the modern year, because that's kind of what it is. So I think a lot of this online sentiment that somewhat comes from people that absolutely hate JRPGs overall, or what they have become, or just loathe the anime aesthetic, they are trying to utilize Expedition 33 as a jumping off point for whatever agenda they're trying to push, but ignoring what Expedition 33 itself actually is, and what the agenda that Expedition 33 is trying to push out also is. Expedition 33, like I said, is a love letter to the genre. It's not trying to say we're better than everyone else, it's saying, hey guys, look how great this genre is. Like, that's the point of Expedition 33. And now for online discussion, it's kind of become like this weird Western RPG versus JRPG discussion when it was never like trying to do that. I think Expedition 33 is absolutely deserving of pretty much every nomination that it got. In fact, I voted for it for almost every category. But like with any other trend, when people won't shut up about any one singular thing, people who haven't experienced that thing, or they did and they just didn't particularly like it for whatever reason, personal preference exists, people get tired of the repetition, they get tired of the talking points, and they start to villainize the very thing, even though it's being villainized because of people that don't understand what the game is about. So in this giant swirling vortex of idiots online not knowing what the hell they're talking about, let's do what I think Expedition 33 really wanted to do: shine a light on a beloved niche genre. So let's talk about my two biggest snubs at the Game Awards. Let's start with Xenoblade.
We call it New Los Angeles.
Product provided by Nintendo. But way back in the day of 2015, I played a game on the Wii U. Yeah, I'm one of the 12 people that actually own a Wii U. In fact, my webcam is on top of my Wii U. I picked up a game called Xenoblade Chronicles X, and I fell in love with it immediately. It was one of the most expansive, one of the most creative, and beautiful game worlds I had ever had the pleasure of experiencing. I would then fall in love with Xenoblade Chronicles as a series, and it would go on to become my favorite series in all of gaming. But the funny thing was that Xenoblade Chronicles X was always kind of viewed as this weird outsider for Xenoblade. It wasn't one of the numbered games and was largely viewed to be a spin-off because it looked and played and just felt very different to the numbered games 1, 2, and 3. But then around a year ago, out of the blue, we had a shadow drop trailer for the announcement of Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition. And for some reason, Nintendo would only advertise this game with shadow drop trailers that came out on like random Tuesdays. Never in a direct, never with any substantial marketing. And it's a decision that still blows my mind to this day. For me, Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition is my second favorite game of all time, right behind Nier Automata.
We call it New Los Angeles. Welcome to NLA.
And so it was that another survivor came to join our band of refugees. Together, we resolved to forge a new way of life here on Mira, come what may. New LA was our beautiful lie to ourselves. Truth is, we were adrift, heading into the unknown. Our native home was gone, swallowed in a shroud of light. And our future was uncertain. We had no idea what fate lay in store for us. Only that we had to keep living in order to see it.
I adore the game. I think it's brilliant in almost every perspective, and every element of it is so beautifully crafted together to create a cohesive whole that is one of the best open world experiences I've ever had the pleasure of playing. But since Nintendo's marketing was basically just, dang girl, here, take it already. If you weren't part of the Xenoblade fandom, you probably hadn't really heard about Xenoblade X, nor did you know what made it tick, and you were probably still under the assumption that it was a spin-off entry. But the thing with Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition was that it was one of the boldest game releases I have ever seen. One of the biggest revelations, it was never a spin-off. It was always a mainline entry, and in fact, it was the game that tied everything together, not just for Xenoblade, but also for previous series that Monolith Soft had developed when they were with other companies, namely Xenosaga. It wasn't the first game in the series to do this, but it was the one that really truly brought it all together, that really solidified that connection. Not only did Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition do such a good job of furthering the story that I love, but my god, did it do the world of Mira so much justice. One of the most creative, visually diverse, and just sprawling open worlds I have ever seen, and it was just as beautiful, if not even more beautiful, than I remember it being on the original Wii U. It's one of those games where you'll just sit back and go, how was this game originally on the Wii U? How does it even work and function on the Switch? They have 4 gigs of RAM to work with. How? Like, I genuinely do not understand what kind of black magic or wizardry Monolith Soft must be able to conjure up at a moment's notice to get these games to look like this on hardware widely considered, because it is, to be underpowered compared to pretty much every other competitor out there. But to me, if you were to ask me what is the most beautiful game of the year, I'm pointing to Xenoblade. Yeah, it's largely the game from 2015, but the graphics have been touched up. There is a difference in character design. And if we're going to just count Final Fantasy Tactics for awards, I'm definitely going to count a full remake like Xenoblade Chronicles X. On top of that, it has incredible character customization when it comes to the class gameplay, being able to mix and match various weapons for different builds, mixing and matching different abilities and passive abilities and armor bonuses. It's just so good. And when you become a master of the combat loop in Xenoblade X, you feel like a force of nature that has descended upon this alien world to mold it in your own very image. advantage. And one of the best elements of Xenoblade X is an element I have yet to ever really see in a game outside of an MMORPG, and that is the way that is able to change fundamentally the perspective you have of the game world. When you start out, you're on your own, you're on foot, you're walking across the giant sprawling landscapes of Mira, ducking and covering from giant monsters and creatures that want to eat you and tear you apart. You develop roots, you understand the lay of the land, and then, right as you're starting to get comfortable with that, the game says, hey, would you like to unlock a giant robot that, by the way, transforms into a vehicle? You'll be able to jump farther, jump higher, move faster, and you'll be able to navigate this world in ways you just physically weren't capable of doing before. And it changes your entire view of the game. That by itself would be a moment I would always remember in video gaming. But then they do it again, and later on, you not only unlock even more giant robots, you unlock the ability to fly with them. Actually flying. There's an island up here? Oh, we can actually get up here? Oh, this is sick! Wii U, by the way. So now, every location in the game you couldn't get to before, you can now get to. Routes that were once locked off for you, mountains that were once too tall to pass, you can now do that. You can go to hidden, floating islands, uncover new super bosses, get to point A to B at your own convenience and leisure, all the while one of the best soundtracks in the medium is blaring in your ear, by the way, because Xenoblade X music is absolutely incredible. Sawano absolutely went off with it. So not only are you navigating the open world of Mira with your giant robot, you can also fight with the thing. You can customize your giant robot, get different parts for it, different weapons, and make it a real force of nature. Those monsters that may have been too large and too imposing for you to take on before, well, now you're in a giant robot, and the playing field, well, it's even.
Load ended all.
So long!
Here we go! Overdrive!
While the game isn't perfect mechanically, my god, does it make you feel cool when you get it. It's a beautiful world that, in my opinion, is one of the most immersive game worlds I have ever seen. I love and I adore Xenoblade Chronicles X, and I love it even more with Definitive Edition, and it's going to be a game that I revisit countless times in the future simply because of the quality of the experience. I would love to see a Switch 2 version of this game so it can have even higher fidelity and higher frame rate, but if you haven't played Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, do yourself a favor and give it a bash. You may fall in love with this game just as much as I did all those years ago. Welcome to Connecticut. Oh, the song is so good!
We call this planet Mira.
Mira.
You won't find it on any star chart, but it's our new home.
The other game that I would like to shout out for this year is Trails in the Sky First Chapter, because this game was simply incredible. Yeah, sure, it's a bit slow narratively speaking, but it's just an absolute delight to play and to be a part of. The characters are all very charming and great, and the combat is so much dang fun. It's an iteration of the Trails combat system, and while I hear it's more similar to how Trails games are nowadays, I'm just getting into the series, and I have played the original Trails in the Sky. The way the game operates is on a turn-based system, and you also operate in a field. So each of your turns, you're moving around that field, positioning yourself to do various abilities, attacks, or magical spells called arts. You can steal bonuses from opponents by doing certain types of abilities. You can buff yourself, combo certain characters together. It's a really satisfying and fun gameplay loop that is also bolstered by amazing, absolutely phenomenal animations. Like some of these spell effects, oh my god, dude. They're so pretty to look at. Get him, girl. Swiss cheese him, girl. Here we go. There we go. She got the sentry gun. And I also think Trails in the Sky, both the original but also this remake, have one of the best endings to a game I've ever seen. It does such a good job of transitioning the game from the tone that it has in the first game moving into the second. And for a game where its biggest sin, you could argue, is that maybe it's a bit too slow plot-wise, oh my god, the ending puts it into maximum overdrive in all the right ways. And it's able to build off the momentum of the final bit of the game in all the right ways. It's so well constructed and it's just so dang fun. It's one of those games that whenever I played it, I just had a smile on my face. It was just simply fun. And it was just a joy to continue to play the game. And just like the original, it got better and better. It's one of the most faithful remakes for a game I have ever seen. Was able to maintain a lot of the artistic elements that made the original so great all those years ago, but in a game that feels far more in line with a lot of other modern games. It's a modernization actually done well, and not that weird corporate buzzword a lot of companies and developers throw out there, when most of the time it just kind of means sanitizing the overall experience and missing the mark of what made the original so good. That's not the case here when it comes to Trails in the Sky. The characters are all so memorable, and it's also juxtaposed with music that is just fun to listen to. The game is charming, the game is funny, the game is captivating, and if you're a big fan of the party JRPG kind of system, I think you would really enjoy Trails in the Sky First Chapter, and I would thoroughly recommend it. These are characters that just kind of stick with you, and it's a game that really embraces that 2000s anime identity, both in terms of the aesthetics, but also in terms of the tone, the atmosphere, the charm, the comedy, and it's all bundled together in one cohesive package that at the end of it all will make you just at the edge of your seat, sitting there, salivating for next year for us to actually get the remake for the second chapter, the sequel. I think Trails in the Sky First Chapter, much like Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, is one of those games that does have deep flaws to it. Trails in the Sky, that is just how slow the main story can be, whereas for Xenoblade Chronicles X, it's just how clunky the gameplay can be. But these games have their own respective flaws, but the pros massively outshine them. No game is perfect, no game is ever going to be perfect. Every game listed at the Game Awards as a nominee has its own respective flaws. Flaws for some people that will be deal breakers, some that will take them out of the experience and ruin the entire thing. I tend to find my favorite games, though, are games that have deep flaws, but they get right what they get right so well that I just focus way more on what they get right than I do what they get wrong, and I enjoy the experience all the more because of it. Trails in the Sky First Chapter is just like that. Like I said, the main story can be rather slow, and it doesn't really get into maximum overdrive until the final, in-game chapter. But my god, the characters are just so likable and fun to be with, and the combat loop is so dang fun. I love Trails combat. I loved it in the original, and I love it here in the remake. And they find such a great balance between allowing you to feel so powerful and cool with the abilities and the combos you can do. I wanted the full burst, let's go for it. Good chunk of damage. But at the same time, allowing the game to still be difficult to require you to actually think. There are different difficulty settings if that's your preference. However, managing all the various little elements the game has going for it is so dang fun, and when you nail it and you knock it out of the park, you feel so pleased with yourself that you were able to navigate that situation and come out the other end on top. That to me is the sign of a good gameplay loop, where it's something where even in failure, you immediately want to come back to it and try it again, because you're like, okay, let me do this, let me try this instead. A good combat loop shouldn't just be fun when you're doing it right. It should also be fun when you mess it up, and that's what Trails absolutely nails here. It nailed it in the original, and it also nails it here in the remake. To me, Trails in the Sky First Chapter is one of the best examples of how to do a remake right. At least a remake that is trying to actively be faithful to the original. A remake can be good by changing some elements of the original. It can be. But what Trails shows is that sometimes there are elements to game design that simply don't age. And instead of changing them for no reason, what you can do is just add to them. What worked in the original Trails, the combat and the characters. What does the remake do in addition to what the original did? Give you even more dialogue with these characters to give them even more opportunities and chances to shine. And also retaining a lot of the elements of the combat loop that made Trails in the Sky so fun, but adding on to it. You know what's not particularly interesting? Having to transition into turn-based combat for even filler mobs you don't really need to think about to deal with. In the remake, you don't have to do that. You can if you want to, but you have a real-time combat loop loop that is tacked onto the experience to where you can just either weaken enemies so that when you transition into turn-based combat, you have a leg up on them, or if the enemy is weak enough, you can just kill them in the real-time combat, then move on about your day.
End this.
Too slow!
And it doesn't break the flow. It actually keeps the flow. It's one of the most brilliant remakes, alongside Xenoblade X, funnily enough, that I have ever seen. It's so dang good. This has been a truly phenomenal year for gaming, and I've been saying that a lot in recent years. It's very easy to be negative about modern gaming, from egregious monetization policies to business practices that make no sense and just overall decisions that are made that baffle the mind. But I think it's also important to note all the great games and experiences that we've had this year, because phenomenal games have come out recently and they're going to continue to come out. Sometimes when it comes to an award show, your favorite game will be there, sometimes your favorite game won't be there. Sometimes games will be nominated for awards you do not think they deserve to be even nominated for, and sometimes games won't be nominated for things you think are obvious, like layups. Just anyone with any kind of knowledge should be able to make this decision. Sometimes it just doesn't happen for whatever reason. It's very easy to get bent out of shape when it comes to award shows. I personally would prefer to redirect that energy to talk about the games that I love and appreciate, in the hopes that maybe someone out there can play these games as well and see just all the good that I see in them. I think that'd be pretty cool. So here's where you come in. Leave a comment down below with what your favorite game of this year has been, or just one of your favorite gaming memories of this year. I would love to hear your thoughts, hear your opinions, and to hear your stories. And while you're down there, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps channel out and helps support future content, and I greatly appreciate it. And speaking of hidden masterpieces, I have recently completed, in my opinion, one of the best games ever made, and you may not have heard of it. And if you have heard of it, chances are you haven't played it. Xenosaga Episode 3. In my opinion, it is truly one of the best gaming experiences out there. And if you want to find out why, you should check out this video right here for more. Stay safe, everybody. Have a great day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Until we meet again!